All right, back for another Monday.
Yep.
Live. Um, Mike's a legend, uh, and the Godfather.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah,
That's two
can
good things.
help.
It helps. Before we get rolling, I want to make sure we talk about obviously our number one thing that we're doing. We've been just crushing this, both me and Mike Farrell, on just doing these prospect promos, and the results have been tremendous. Everyone's really enjoyed them. The reach has been magnificent. If you have a chance to check out, go to myfootballcamps.com/D1 or NUCsports.com/D1. You'll see all the information on there. We're even starting to add. We'll even add more of our videos on there that we're doing. But it's dynamic, and it is helping guys get noticed. So check that out. That's real important. Um, Mike, what do you think of some of the stuff we've been doing lately on there?
Yeah, I mean it's fun. It is really interesting to see some of the comments, that people make. It's not there's nothing negative. Everybody's been happy with it so far, and even fans, they've never heard of these kids before. So I've had a few people that say, is he big enough, to play this position, or just sort of ask questions about a kid that no one's ever heard of before. And it's going to be more exciting too as they start to pile up offers. We got a few kids that got offers already, but as the football season moves forward, we're going to get more and more of those kids. And yeah, it's just unique. I like the opportunity, and I just think it's one of the more fun things that I've been able to do since being independent. I love writing and all that stuff, but I'm still a scout at heart. And, you send me a kid and I'll find out what he needs to work on and what he's good at.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun looking at what they do and then talking about it and sharing that with as many people as we can. And then, like I said, it's all platforms too. So you're sharing it on all your social. I'm sharing it all mine. I started doing on my YouTube segments that I did for these kids, taking those segments and putting really nice cover art on it. So when people see it, it pops off, and they'll pop off their stories. So really cool stuff. We want to touch base on that, and want to announce also a great partnership we have coming up with Youth One around these promotions. That's an organization that's really focused on the younger athletes. So we've done a lot of the I would say sophomore, junior, freshmen. You're going to have some 8th, 7th graders, some 9th graders. So it's a great partnership working with them on that, and we just finalized that this weekend. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. And there'll be others, whether it's youth or whether it's under the radar, whether it's, I mean, honestly, I get kids reaching out to me in the portal. I haven't even thought about that yet, and I really don't have it in my head to think about that yet. But kids who need exposure through the portal too, I mean, that's going to eventually be part of the business also, because they go off to a school, whether it's a small school and they do really good, but no one knows about them. The platform, I mean, every college coach covers that Farrell portal. They're on it. I get constant DMs from schools, smaller schools mostly, that don't have the staff. Who are the top offensive linemen left in the portal? And I tell them, well, that's not free, but if we do have a kid who's in the portal and wants, that type of attention, then we have a way to get that attention for him. So, and it's also those guys who overshot maybe, or just went to a school where the depth chart is too deep.
Yep.
And they have film from high school. They don't have a ton from college. They got practice film from college and things like that, and just need a little boost because they can't do it themselves. So they reach back to their old high school coach to try to help them. But, when a kid was being recruited heavily out of high school and he's in the portal, it's a completely different story. That high school coach is no longer getting his phone calls picked up or his text messages responded to, because his kid isn't, a 40 offer kid that they're trying to recruit for 4 years. Now he's in the portal. and maybe they don't care why he's in the portal, but they should. So that's another area I think it's going to crop up too. But the partnerships are just going to start rolling in, and I think that's exciting too, because I want more of these. I want to get behind. Right now, I got a good steady flow. I want to fall behind.
Yes, right. Absolutely. That's a great place to be. And, for us, we have our big camp of the summer that comes up, our top prospect camp. We're going to be working with a few colleges now on that. So in the past, we've always stayed out of that realm, but there's a few of the FCS and D2 schools that are going to want to work with us on that. So that'll be pretty cool down in Savannah, Georgia. And that comes up in July. So, all right, let's get to some of the meat and potatoes of what's going on right now. What would you rather start with, your list?
Let's start with Arch. Let's go to the running back after. Let's start with Arch because it's done. It's finally over, so we think. I mean, he still could decommit, but he chose his school finally. And it was, I forget what day it was. It was just I think it was Friday. It was a very laissez-faire, hot, sunny Friday, slow news day. And then all of a sudden, my phone started blowing up, and it was Arch to Texas. And we talked about it last week. His teammate was committed there on the same visit Arch took. So the strategy, I believe, that was in place was if Arch commits with his teammate, no one's going to care, and they're all going to think he's a throw-in. If Arch committed before his teammate, less people would care. So you let your teammate have his sort of moment in the sun, and then a couple weeks later you decide to announce. And I think it's a good fit. I will say this: there's 3 schools that were involved here: Georgia, Alabama, Texas. All of them win, and I'll tell you why. Alabama wins because they don't have to deal with the Arch Manning madness. And I'm not talking about the family. I'm just talking about Saban and Manning. Every time Arch Manning throws an incompletion, they're gonna do a side by side of Saban and Peyton, like on camera every second of every day because they're such big personalities. Kirby Smart, he doesn't need that Manning headache. There's a lot of attention and pressure that comes with that. And he already sort of mismanaged and fumbled the Justin Fields situation and still came out on top of the national championship. He doesn't need that. Texas needs it. They need this bump. They got 5 commitments since Arch committed last Friday. Sark needs this bump. He needs this sort of juice in the recruiting world. So everybody won here.
Yeah. And his tight end, I think, is Will Randall, right? Is that who committed to Texas too? So
good player. Good player. I mean, some places have him as a 4-star. I think he's a 3-star. I think he's I think he's not quite Texas. I don't think they would have taken him had it not been for Arch, but a good player for sure.
Well, I think that definitely helped in the recruiting process because that's his favorite target and obviously good friends. So nowadays I think that's even. I mean, it's always had an impact, those kind of things, but definitely when you have one teammate that's going there, you saw it with the Michigan State wide receiver last year. Transferring, I think it was transferring in the quarterback. They had that connection. They were teammates in high school. And so those are the kind of things that I think you'll see a little bit more of that, I think, going forward, just because players are a little different now, the comfort level, and they want to have that certain level of comfort. What I thought was interesting. So a couple things. I saw something that Arch is going to still visit a couple schools besides Texas, right? And that so I thought that was interesting. Some people were like, what does that mean, right? And then the other thing is obviously the Quinn Ewers situation. Even though by the time Arch is ready, Quinn Ewers, if he's doing great, may already be an NFL guy at that point. So what do you think about those two things?
Well, first of all, I don't think he's going to visit any place else unless Sark gets in trouble. As far as job security, if the season is a disaster, then you're going to see him looking at other places. And I don't think there's any outside programs. LSU was mentioned, Florida was mentioned as outside programs that might be of interest to him. I don't think that's the case. So I'd be surprised if he took other visits. And if he does decide Texas isn't the place, Sark's under, fire, under pressure, I think he just goes to Georgia. But the June commitment, there's two sides to that. It was like, okay, we can't wait because we're not going to get this recruiting bump if we wait. But we also commit in June to a school that last year lost to Kansas and everybody wanted Sark gone. So it's a tough balance, but they got 4 offensive linemen to commit in the last week, a wide receiver as well. And that's the important part about this commitment, is to get this 2023 class as strong as possible so Arch can have that success. Now he's going in as 2023. Let's say Ewers beats Hudson Card and plays this year and then plays in 2023. That arm, forget it. I don't care. You can have an average career like, I'd say Matt Stafford had an average career at Georgia, right? It didn't, set any records. And that arm's going to get you drafted in the first round. So I think 2022, 2023, Quinn Ewers gone, and then Arch takes over after that. But the first question I got was, is Quinn going to transfer again? No. Arch Manning is going to be a senior in high school when Quinn Ewers is playing this season. If he can't beat Hudson Card, yeah, he'll transfer, but not because of Arch Manning.
I agree with that. There's enough of a gap that if Quinn Ewers is starting, he's no doubt, and he's playing well, and then Texas is a good season. In that short time frame, he'll be in the NFL. And even if Arch was sitting that first year, that's really 1 year just to kind of learn. And it's really not a big deal at all. So I agree with you on that. At first, I thought that was going to be an issue, but now that I look at it, you look at the time frame and the spacing. If they're back to back, yeah, that could be an issue, but they're not. Right. So not really going to be an issue. So I think that's really. I mean, that was the hottest news by far.
Yeah,
and I want to talk.
If before we get into that, if he wants back-to-back, he's worried about back-to-back, then he shouldn't be going to, like Malachi Nelson committed to Oklahoma when Caleb Williams was a freshman there. He didn't care. Malachi Williams is at USC, committed to USC now. He doesn't care who's there. That's the type of attitude you have to have. And I don't think Arch Manning cares either.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I agree with you 100% on that. 100%. All right, now your list, okay? And as you self-proclaim, not as hot as your your QB list for obvious reasons. More people care about the QBs, obviously.
Right.
Nothing to do with the list. Although I did see a couple of scorn comments that I get a good chuckle at, but as you would expect, a couple of people have the scoring. And for myself, some of these names down the list, I mean, I knew the quarterbacks, but some of these names on the list are you really did a great job of digging.
It's a dive, man. It's a deep dive, and nothing's right, nothing's wrong about the list. It's just an opinion. The quarterback one, everybody knows who the quarterback is at every school, right? But when you don't know, that especially these group of 5 guys, I mean, half of this list, maybe a little less than half, are group of 5 guys that you may have never heard of. Lou Nichols, Central Michigan, is number 13 on the list. Rasheen Ali at Marshall. These are great football players that people don't know a lot about. Dwayne McBride, UAB, nobody knows him. Keaton Mitchell at East Carolina. So it's for the real geeks. But the debate at the top was one of the big things: Travion Henderson versus Bijan Robinson. There were so many people that felt Bijan should be first. And listen, this is just like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, man. I mean, I had Bryce Young 1, Stroud 2. You can flip them. I don't care. They're 1A, 1B to me. And then after that, the most of the complaints were, how can you have Jabari Small off the list from Tennessee? How can you have Zach Charbonnet, ahead of Tavion Thomas in the Pac-12? Or how on earth is Travis Dye, who transferred to USC, ahead of Charbonneau? And then, on and on. Zach Evans ahead of Tank Bigsby. How's that possible? There's a lot of discussion there. And then there's some uneducated people. I mean, someone told me that the returning Big Ten Player of the Year offensive player of the year is only 18th on your list, and that's Mo Ibrahim. And I'm like, he played one game last year. He's great, but he got hurt, and he's coming off a serious injury, and he has to, show that he's back. And he was not the player of the year last year. That was 2020, because you're not the player of the year to play one game. So even fans of like Minnesota who proclaim their fans don't know what they're talking about. And that's what's fun about the list, is like, it makes you feel smarter about yourself because there's so many idiots out there.
No, I know Mo Ibrahim was on track to before the injury, and so you still have to see what happens. So, but he was, I mean, was the reason why that quarterback really had such a good year.
Tanner Morgan, yeah.
Yep.
And he was tearing up Ohio State when he got hurt.
Right, absolutely was.
He's 100%. Great, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not going to put him top 10 when he's coming off that injury. So there's some Jersey guys here too.
Oh, yeah. So Jalen Berger, which started out great at Wisconsin, but then Braylon Allen, took over there. And so, in Wisconsin, the way it works, they do use two backs, but that first guy is the workhorse. So, you get in a position where you're not going to get as many touches. And the guy who gets the ball at Wisconsin, I mean, Braylon Allen, statistically, just because of the way Wisconsin plays, could end up being better than all those guys statistically, just because of their power offense. But yeah, Jalen Berger is a guy that has great potential. I mean, at 20, he started off, he looked like he was going to be a megastar. I mean, in Jersey, I want to say he was the top guy out of Jersey out of high school.
He was,
yeah. Yeah, and he's big, he's strong, he's got that pro style, big knee drive running style that you see with a lot of the guys over history of the NFL that have been good backs. Just, he's got to be able to do it, and he's going to hopefully get that opportunity to see if he can. And that's a good example, I think, of a lot of the opportunity of the transfer portal, because there was no transfer portal, he'd be battling it out for possibly a losing position. So
yeah, he had gotten a little bit of hot water there too with the coaches and stuff, and they've got Eric Broussard from Colorado transferring in as well. So a lot of people were like, Berger's not even going to start, Broussard's going to be the guy. Why don't you have both of them on this list? Blah blah blah. And then why do you have Nick Singleton at 28? He hasn't taken a snap yet. But, this is also just like the Quinn Ewers on the quarterback list. He's just too good to not include. Like last year, I had Trevion Henderson on the list. He hadn't played it down. So, you have to put a Nick Singleton on there because I think he's going to be the starter at Penn State. But Patrick Garwo at 21 for BC is intriguing to me as well, because nobody knows who he is. Nobody's heard of him. And he is he's a beast and a monster. And he's ahead of bigger names like Eric Gray and Jalen Knighton and, some of these other guys that people have heard of. And just behind Kendall Milton, who was a 5-star kid coming out of high school, who's going to split time with Kenny McIntosh. I could have flipped them. Kenny McIntosh at 45 could have been higher, but watch out for that kid too. Now I think he's a New York kid, not a New Jersey kid. But yeah, some guys from your neck of the woods here are very high on this list. But it's all going to come down to Trevion Henderson, Jahmyr Gibbs in the national title game, and which guy can get it done, because I think that's where we're headed, is Ohio State versus Alabama.
Yes, I say that 100%. And you know what? Alabama's got other guys probably behind if something ever goes down. So, I looked at the list. The first thing that I thought was that Texas people would have an issue with Bijan being 2. And you could, you're right. You could argue for either one of them. Deuce Vaughn is an unbelievable player as well. And then obviously, down the list, probably some people said, hey, Will Shipley, what's up with him being 17?
Carried that offense last year. Carried him.
Yep,
but
absolutely.
He got hurt too. So
Yep. Well, here's what's interesting about Garwell. The system is a big deal, and John McNulty, being the offensive coordinator at Boston College now, the new offensive coordinator, he was the offensive coordinator when Ray Rice was the running back at Rutgers, when they had all that kind of pound the ball stuff going on. So that's a guy that could end up having a ton of yards in that kind of system. He loves to use 2 tight ends. He loves to pound the ball and go play action. So combined with the quarterback that they have there, that really, it seems like those 2 players fit that exact kind of offensive coordinator philosophy for them.
yeah, Djokovic is a big running back himself. I mean, he's a quarterback, but he can run. So you got to handle that. They've got a big, strong offensive line. Now, they lost Mahogany for the year, which is upsetting me because he was one of the top 2 offensive linemen in my NFL draft list. And nobody had heard of him either. So that's a big blow to them. I mean, the good news is he's already said that he's going to rehab and come back. So he'll be there for the 2023 season. But BC is going to have big physical offensive linemen. They're going to run the football. 2 tights, as you mentioned. This isn't going to be the Andre 2000 year of Andre Williams, where Adazio just always ran the football. I mean, Ryan Day was his offensive coordinator. I mean, he couldn't get a pass play called. It's not those days, but it will be a run-heavy offense, and he'll put up some big numbers. And, Utah, man, Tavion Thomas is great. I think he had 16 touchdowns last year or something. He puts the ball on the ground a little too much. Chris Rodriguez at Kentucky's great. He had some off-field legal issues this summer. The reason Tank's 12 is because I think his backup, Jarquez Hunter, is better. It hasn't played out that way yet, but Jarquez Hunter at 44, he's going to shoot up this list if he's healthy, but he's coming off a knee injury as well. So just so many question marks. And then Sean Tucker, the Syracuse guy, gets no attention. So it was good to see, some of the non-traditional powers like Kansas State, Syracuse, getting guys in here, Kentucky, and down to Illinois and Chase Brown. There's great running backs everywhere. This took a lot longer than the quarterbacks in my mind, just to dig through, who's going to be the guy, who could be the guy, how do they set up their offense, will they split carries. Quarterbacks was a little bit easier because there's one, but as you see at the end, I've got 2 guys from the same team at 49 and 50, and I just threw my hands up and I don't know, you could flip them.
That's the App State kids?
Yeah, they're both really, really good. And, there's a lot of teams with multiple running backs, that could have been included in here. Michigan has Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in here. Tyon Evans at Louisville, but they've got 2 other really talented running backs there. Raheem Sanders at 32 at Arkansas, but their running back room is deep as well. And it came down to okay, why do you have 2 running backs from some schools, and where's Roshan Johnson from Texas? He's Bijan's backup, but he's really, really good. And it's just how do you fit them all in? Roshan Johnson could be, top 40 in this list by midseason.
I love how you found some of the small school guys. That's the thing you have guys like Kamar Wheaton, who's everyone thinks is going to really have a big year. But then you went and found a guy from UMass.
UMass sucks, but Ellis Merriweather is not the reason they suck. And Donnie Brown's back there for the 15th time. He'll tote the rock, and he'll be the big part of that offense. Now they're not going to win football games, but no one's ever heard of Ellis Merriweather ever. But he's a 1,000-yard guy, and it probably could be a 1,500-yard guy next season.
Now I wonder, Don Brown is now the head coach, right? So
yeah.
Don Brown, the last time I think he was head coach, maybe I'm wrong, was the 90s when he was at Northeastern, right? Or
he was UMass since then. So he was UMass, then he went to BC, then he went to Maryland. No, he went to Maryland, then he went to BC. He was at UConn for a little while, but he was the head coach at UMass.
After Whipple, or
previously, I think it was after Whipple, yeah.
Okay.
And then he became a coordinator, and now he's back full circle back at UMass. He was a great coach there at UMass. They were, this was a different UMass. This was like, I don't even know when they were FCS, I believe at the time. But they were always in that playoff, the FCS playoff under Brown. And they ran the ball very well because he's an old school, defensive coach, but he's also a ball control guy and, control the clock and all this other stuff. And so Ellis Merriweather is going to get a lot of carries there if he stays healthy. And again, this is the other thing about these running backs. I mean, last year, Mo Ibrahim heading into the season was clearly a top 10 back, maybe top 5. I can't remember, and he gets hurt game 1. And they had so many, Marquise Irvin's a guy who transferred from Minnesota to Oregon, part of that deep running back room that Minnesota has. And he's not on this list, but he could be a star because Oregon lost, Dye to USC. Verdell went to the NFL. I mean, they need a guy, and Marquise Irvin could be that guy and could be as high as, top 25 on this list by midseason.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Great list. I mean, Frank Gore Jr., Chris Tyree, which is David Tyree's son, I'm assuming.
The fun part about this was that some of the running backs actually jumped in and commented.
They did?
Yeah, like Cam Peoples did. And, he's like, thankful, but underrated. Frank Gore Jr. chimed in, thankful, but I'm going to prove people wrong. And it's like, it's really Keaton Mitchell jumped in. It's not, the small school guys that get no attention jumped in. But they're, Frank Gore Jr. There's nothing to prove wrong. 42 in the country at a school where you don't get any attention. Your last name is Gore, yes. Your dad's an NFL Hall of Famer in my mind, but 42 is still pretty good. But the hunger that you see from some of these guys, Rasheen Ali at 16 also chimed in. They want to be great and they want to be known, and that's the fun part about the draft too. Is like none of these guys. Bijan could be a first rounder. Trevion the following year could be a first rounder. Everybody else, I don't see.
At first round, too.
Maybe Braylon Allen, but, it's – so you got to be that second, third round guy, and it could be from a small school. A lot of them are from small schools.
There's no doubt about it. First round is very, very – you might get one. Now, I mean, nobody's – I don't see the value in even taking running back at that first round, or unless you're going to do it late in the first round, just because of the fact that there's so many great running backs, and at the NFL, they have a specific role most of them fill in the offense, unless you're on Tennessee with Derrick Henry or something like that, but they have a specific role. They've got to be able to be, most of these guys are two down guys. This running back's in on the first 2 downs, and then third down, someone else is coming in. Very rarely are guys in for all 3 downs.
Well, look at a guy taken high too. Saquon was taken high. He's had injury issues. Leonard Fournette was taken top 5. He's good, and now, but he's playoff Lenny. He didn't, wasn't top 5 caliber pick. Christian McCaffrey's battling injuries. Ezekiel Elliott looks like he has no gas in the tank already, and he was just paid as the highest paid running back 2 years ago. The running backs, they wear out, and injuries are an issue, and that's never going to change. So a lot of people put draft capital in running backs, and it didn't pan out for them. So now they're cautious. Now, again, a Bijan Robinson, so special, could be a top 10 pick. Same with Trevion. But the other guys got to hope to slide in the end of the first round.
I have a question on that. I wonder, is it because they share roles more that they're not as I just think back to when we grew up, right? I mean, small guys like Tony Dorsett carried the rock a million times.
Right.
I had Eric Dickerson, Herschel Walker, all these guys, Barry Sanders,
Marshall Faulk,
Emmett Smith, Marshall Faulk, carried it a million times. Why they're wearing out in the same time frame that the old, you go back to Earl Campbell and Jim Bradley. they wearing out in the same kind of time frame, maybe earlier than those guys did, but with less carries. I wonder why that is.
I think it's cyclical. You do get your workhorses like Derrick Henry he was a second round pick, and he got hurt this past season. I mean, every running back's going to get hurt. The interesting part about it is you mentioned some of those guys in the 70s that had shorter careers. Earl Campbell with knees, and Jim Brown was by choice. Gale Sayers choice. Now they're getting hit. Like Rashawn Gary's a linebacker, okay? 6'5", 290-pound linebacker. And that guy's coming at you in space. And now they're getting hit. And they're getting hit low. And it just crumples you. I mean, you weren't getting hit. Tony Dorsett was never getting hit by 6'5", 290-pound guys with a 8-yard running start. He was getting hit. And maybe being little helped him. And he was resilient and lucky. But I just think that the size and speed of these defenders, like you see at the combine every year, these guys just get bigger and faster. It's scarier looking. And if they hit you in the open field, you're going to get leveled and hurt. I mean, it's just there's no way not to when every linebacker's 260 plus. And the weak side guy could be, 265 and a guided missile.
I think that, and then if you get into the secondary, there's no DB they're trying to hit you up high. They all chop at your legs. So that has to wear on you a little bit too. You're not getting hit with the same velocity that a D-line or linebacker hits you, but they're chopping at that. I mean, that's what they're taught. Like, go low, take him out.
Well, these guys are so big and they run with such great leverage. Even Christian McCaffrey is a smaller back, is very difficult to tackle high. You're not going to go to Derrick Henry high. You're certainly not going to go to Leonard Fournette high. Saquon Barkley with those tree trunk legs, you'd think high would be good, but it's not. You go ankles and knees, and you're not trying to hurt them. You're just trying to get them down. And there's a lot more launching tacklers than there used to be. Back in the day, form tackle was important. The Jack Lamberts of the world. I mean, it'd square you up and wrap you up. Now it's just guys diving around. And if they hit you, great. If they don't, someone else will. And they're all diving low. So, but I think it's cyclical. I do think, for every Saquon that's had, injuries early in his career, there are, Adrian Petersons, right? Have long careers and Hall of Fame careers and have injury. He missed a whole season, with an ACL, or part of a season and rehabbed real quick. It's just cyclical, and the NFL's cyclical about it too. I mean, they're willing to take as recently as 3 years ago, a running back in the top 5 if he's good enough. And I think this year with Bijan, you're going to see that as well. If a team at the top has that need and fit, and Bijan has a great season, they'll take him in the top 5 and roll the dice and hope he's, Derrick Henry or but the value of the second round, the Nick Chubbs of the world, that's where you make your money as an NFL player. And also, Nick Chubb went to Georgia, but some of these guys that are smaller school guys that have tremendous success in the NFL, you may have never heard of in college.
That makes a ton of sense. Really incredible stuff. That list is incredible. It's a food for conversation.
Wide receivers this week on social media, and we'll talk about it next week.
That you're going to get a lot of chiming in, maybe more than quarterbacks.
I think I will, because there's just so many good wide receivers in college football. I got the top. It's just a debate immediately between Smith and Jigba at Ohio State and Addison now at USC and Xavier Worthy at Texas and Keisha Booty at LSU. That's the top. But when you get into the 26 to 50 range, it's going to be like, do I take Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be great, or do I take a group of 5 guy who is already great that no one's ever heard of? How many Ohio State wide receivers do I take? Like, they're loaded. Does Emeka Egbuka make this list? Julian Fleming hasn't panned out yet, but he could have a monster year. So that's going to be, I don't know if it'll get as much attention as the quarterbacks, but it'll get a lot of hate.
Oh, that's what I think you'll get. I think you'll get more hate on the wide receivers, and you might have some college wide receivers chiming in that are off the list that might say, "Hey, I did this," or you might have some guys that are 35 that are like, "I'm better than," because
the way wide receivers, they're such divas, though.
Yes.
The way they respond to stuff, they'll just reply, they'll quote tweet, and then they'll just put the laughing emoji like 5 times, right? Xavier Worthy did that to me once. I forget what it was. I think I did a versus, who's better, Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, or something like that, right? When Addison was looking at Texas, and he just put up laughter. It's not even a comment. It's just laughter. And so what he means. He's 10 times better than Jordan Addison in his mind. They're such divas and they're such egos, more so than quarterbacks, that anybody who chimes in is just probably just going to do a stupid emoji that says, "I'm an idiot." But I look forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yep. That's also what makes them so good, too, I think. They have to.
On the flip side of the divas, we could full circle back to the promotion. If you want to become a diva, let's remember the Jordy Nelsons and the Antonio Browns of the world that were no star guys, that had no attention and had to get lucky. Jordy Nelson walked on as a safety at Kansas State. Antonio Brown was an undersized quarterback that Central Michigan took a shot at wide receiver. Those guys got no attention. They needed
Hunter Renfro.
Hunter Renfro, walk on. Those are, they got lucky, and they're great, but they got lucky to be put in a position of great. And there's probably a few out there that need this promotion. And I hope there's one. I hope we look back in 5 years, like Cooper Kupp. There's a great example, right? Nobody wanted him out of high school. Had Cooper Kupp had the portal, first of all, he would have left early and been at FBS school. But secondly, had he had the promotion, he might have bumped up to the group of 5 level. I mean, this is a dude who played FCS, and now he's the best receiver in the NFL. So, for every Stephon Diggs out there who was a 5-star that we knew about in 8th grade, there's a Cooper Kupp out there, and those are the ones that need to reach out to us now. And then we can look like geniuses when we promote them when they make it.
I have one last question before we chime off, and it's totally unrelated. This is about quarterbacks. I see so many of these offers with quarterbacks that are like in 8th grade, and you probably have seen it too. Are those binding? Because I see some guys that had a ton of offers, and if that athlete, let's say a quarterback doesn't grow or they don't continue to develop, because I remember with David Sills. Remember David Sills, who obviously is in the NFL as a receiver now. He was always a great athlete, but he had the offers early on, like 7th, 8th grade, and then never. He still had some of the offers later on, but I think the USC offer went away. Ended up at West Virginia. Didn't really work out at quarterback when he moved to receiver because he was such a great athlete and he's smart and all that stuff. He ended up making a great transition, becoming a pro. But that would be my example of a guy who was way ahead of everybody probably at one point, and then people caught up. Is that how the college coaches view it? Because I know a lot of quarterback parents must have questions about those kind of things.
There's no binding. They moved the written offers actually back a year, if you remember, like 6-7 years ago, which was such a dumb move. That was just by the NCAA. It just made things worse because they were trying to cut down on decommitments. If you remember, it's so funny to think like 6-7 years ago that decommitments were the biggest problem in college football, right? Now you got NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff. But back then, decommitments were a big deal, and everybody's like, So I thought they should do binding offers by September 1st of your freshman year. And then you'll have less offers the kids could commit to. Schools will take them and then run them off and all this other stuff. Or they'll just throw out an offer to a kid in 7th grade that someone else has offered, and it's not binding. The kid calls up, tries to commit, just say, well, we're going to keep an eye on you. Well, why'd you offer? Well, we're going to keep an eye on you, So it's not binding. And Davis David Sills is a great example of that. Lane Kiffin offered him in 7th grade, and Lane Kiffin was long gone at USC by the time that kid became a senior in high school. And I will tell you this: as a quarterback, you want to handle yourself the way David Sills did, right? So when he was offered as a 7th grader, he was from Delaware. I was like, oh no, because that was my region. I was national, but I also had a focus on the Mid-Atlantic region. I'm like, he's in my state. I got to deal with this. His dad's going to be a pain in the ass. He's going to be a pain in the ass. I could just tell. And I was so wrong. The dad was fine. I saw him at so many of your camps, right?
He was great. He was great.
Great kid, great teammate, always wanted attention for his teammates. And just a kid that when you saw him have success as a wide receiver, you're like, I didn't know he was that good an athlete. One thing about David Sills, if you remember correctly, is he did have amazing hands, right? So whether it's ball control as a quarterback, or if they were just tossing the ball around at one of your camps, he would make one-handed catches. He'd make one-handed catches behind his back and all this other stuff. But I never knew he could run, because it was 7-on-7. He didn't run at his high school that much. And I thought, this kid's not an athlete. He's a quarterback. And then he turns into a wide receiver. But he handled himself and his dad as well as anybody could have. So if you do get those offers as a young kid, first of all, it means nothing. Tate Martell got an offer in 7th grade, committed to Steve Sarkisian at Washington. Okay, that was 180 years ago. He had since, decommitted. Sarkis since, went to USC, went to rehab, went to Alabama, went to Texas now. I mean, so many things have changed since then. And Martell, flipped and he committed to Texas A&M, and then he committed to Ohio State, and then he transferred to Miami. I mean, Martell ended up being horrible, doing nothing. And he had those offers in middle school. It means nothing. None of them are binding. Your commitment isn't binding either. And if it changes your head, which it did to Tate Martell, it changed his head, you're going to ruin yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that you've got to stay focused, because they can go away. You're right about David Sills. He was really remarkable in how he conducted himself for someone who had offers at our. I do remember him going 10-2 in a broad jump as a sophomore at one of our camps, which was eye-opening. Yeah, that was eye-opening.
That's crazy. And you remember, I mean, I don't think he ever lost. Did he lose a 7-on-7 tournament at any of your camps?
Always win. Maybe he lost one time. I don't know. But he was always in the final. There's no doubt, always in the final. And the guys who, because I remember he had the adopted brother who went and played at Mississippi State. I think it was Mississippi State as a receiver. And they really, their family used to take care of a lot of the kids that were on that team. I remember that. So, but you're right.
Rich people that just didn't come off as that way. And the dad was a millionaire. I mean, multimillionaire.
Yeah,
and he let the coaches handle it. He let David handle it. And there was a lot of pressure for that kid. I mean, he didn't pan out as a quarterback. He went to JUCO, if you remember. And then nobody wanted him at JUCO as a quarterback. So he went back to West Virginia and then ended up as a wide receiver. So he's a great story. And wide receiver put up crazy numbers one year, 1,500 yards receiving or something. And unstoppable on that little inside post. Unstoppable. So that's kind of a neat story, and a polar opposite story of a Tate Martell, who's not a bad kid. But he just... he's undefeated at Bishop Gorman, never lost a football game. He was cocky. He was undersized, so that led to a little bit more of his cockiness, and just made bad decision after bad decision as to where he should go and who we should play for. And now he's the guy that, you put out a ranking on a kid who may be 5'11" as a quarterback, and he's going to suck like Tate Martell. And that's what, whereas the opposite is if a kid moves from quarterback to wide receivers, he could be successful like David Sills. Just polar opposite trajectories through the career.
Yep. Pretty awesome. All right. Well, like we've talked about before, check out myfootballcamps.com/D1 or NUCsports.com/D1. We got a great new partnership with Youth One. So a lot of the athletes that end up coming through to different programs. A lot of them start at Youth One, so it's a great time to talk to them.
Also, at MikeFarrellSports@gmail.com, I have a dedicated salesperson now. So if you do email me at MikeFarrellSports@gmail.com, you're going to be put in touch with somebody who's going to communicate with you. And then if you decide to purchase the program, then you'll be communicating with us. But you're going to get a little, because we get a lot of them, and sometimes you can't put the personal attention on each one of them. So I do have somebody who's going to handle that. And I've known him since I was 10 years old, trust him. And he's going to like sort of guide you through. And then the other part about this that I've, kind of been excited about is the long-term understanding, like the one-time promo, which is great. And it's the one that sells the most. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not. And you got to regroup and look at it. And so we've had a couple of, quarterbacks that have gone from 1 time to 6 months, and we get to spend a lot more time with them. And DM them and say, hey, what's your next step? What film do you have? Workout film do you have? What 7-on-7 film do you have from the summer? What new stuff can we put up to keep you in mind? Because now they're going to be mentioned in July and August when nobody's mentioned, and then into your season. Then you get the season film, in October, and then into the early signing period and all that stuff. So it's smart to stay in for the long haul. Don't try it and just say, oh geez, I didn't get my Alabama offer. That's not how this works. It's constantly keeping your name in the news and keeping your name up there for people. And even after you sign with an FCS school or maybe a smaller school than you want, with the portal, you got to keep your name out there.
There's no doubt about it. That's the name of the game. So for next time, make sure you check us out. You can check out Mike Farrell Sports. Okay, he's on every social media platform. You can go and find him there. You can find me at Coach Schuman. And listen, you type it into Google. I mean, you type those 2 words into Google, you'll find us. So if you're not navigating, you type that and you'll easily find us. And we want to help you. Want to get you in a good position. We love doing this stuff every week. We give you a little excitement of what's going on in college football and recruiting, and let you know the things that are out there to give you guys an opportunity to really succeed. Anything else, Mike?
I might have jury duty Friday, so say a prayer for me that it gets canceled on Thursday. I've been canceled every time. I've never done it. So it's knock on wood. And because if I have to do jury duty Friday, I could tell you I'm probably not going to do this podcast Monday, and I'm going to have to just pray for me.
Yeah, I've done it once. And luckily they
one
said
day. It was one day.
I had to do it one. I think it ended up being 2 days. So we went in there. They picked me. It started the whole process. The next day we came back. We sat there the whole day. They negotiated whatever was going on, and then the following day we came in and we did nothing. The one whole day we just basically sat there.
And you can't have your phone, right?
I don't remember what it was, but it was probably something like I think it was something like that. And then the next day, this is quite a while ago. The next day they came in, and we were ready to go in for start hearing everything, and they settled, and that was it. We were done.
You got lucky.
I got lucky.
Yeah. And you served, so now they don't bother you much anymore, right?
Correct. So it counts as serving. Yeah, it counts as serving.
See, I keep getting canceled, but they keep sending me one every year. I don't know. There's no winning. Like if I serve, then I'll end up getting on some sort of crazy murder trial for a year and sequestered. And if I don't serve, they're going to keep coming at me with these. So I chose. They gave me July 1st, a Friday in the heat of July, and I kept it because I've heard that Fridays and Mondays are the days that, are most cancellations. So usually I pick a Monday, but I stuck with this Friday. So we'll see. If you don't see me for a few months, then because if you can't have your phone, I will die. I'll just die.
I can't remember because it was a while ago. but it
I can't
was
imagine they're gonna let me sit there and tweet all day.
no. I know I remember thinking when they came and said it, I was like, oh wow, I got lucky because they're in a sense that I mean I wouldn't mind serving just for the process for a shorter case. I think it's kind of interesting, but to be on like if you're sequestered for a month, that's tough. It's very tough. So
And stuck with the same 11 people every day for like 10 hours. I can't do it. So let's just say a prayer that I don't get selected. And if I don't, then I'll be back on Monday with you.
all right, perfect. All right, till next week. Make sure you check us out, and if you have any questions, we're always there for you. We'll see you soon next Monday on Legends Live.